Turn to the election campaign. Sir Keir Starmer is on the trail in Scotland today. That's where he's expected to set out the Labour Party's energy plans.
And we can speak to Anna Sarwar, who's leader of the Scottish Labour Party now. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning.
This morning. So focus very much on Scotland, focus on GB Energy, which is being unveiled. People are learning a little more. Tell us a little bit about that and how people in Scotland would benefit.
So GB Energy is a key part of our growth plan for Scotland and our growth plan right across the UK. And everyone knows that Scotland is the energy capital, and let's be really clear what these plans are. We want to work in partnership with the oil and gas industry. There is no cliff edge, there is no turning off of the tap. Oil and gas will play a significant role for decades to come. But what this commitment is around is making sure we actually deliver the transition that people all agree we need to see. That is a publicly owned energy generation company headquartered in Scotland that will be tasked with creating more jobs and lowering people's bills. It will make investments, for example, around our port infrastructure, supply chains where the bulk of the jobs will come from, and they will also make key investments around onshore wind, offshore wind, tidal, solar, and so much more, as well as carbon capture and storage, I should have also said, which will be us realising our full energy potential. And I think it's also important to stress, it's not just the rural and remote parts that have huge energy potential. Urban areas too, right across the whole UK, have huge potential. We don't want that potential to be wasted. We want that potential to be realised and to create the jobs of the future, as well as bring down people's bills.
So that's the big picture stuff. In a practical sense, will people's bills come down in Scotland or elsewhere? And when will they see and feel the first difference?
Well, straight away we have said we would extend the windfall tax to make sure we are investing in that clean energy revolution, as well as helping to bring people's bills down in the short term. But as these investments take place, as we generate more energy more cheaply, alongside our warm homes plan, which is retrofitting homes to reduce energy consumption and therefore bring down people's bills that way too, people will see not just a temporary reduction in their bills, this is about permanent reduction in bills, so we can address the cost of living crisis as well as making work pay, which is one of our other commitments.
You'll understand that for some people whose bills are high right now, that answer you just given won't give them much comfort. You say that's your intention, it will happen over time. People's bills are high right now. That's when they're struggling. So what can you offer people in terms of when it will make a difference to the bills coming through their door?
Well, actually, if we deliver economic stability straight away, that can help drive down the cost of people's mortgages, helping them with a cost of living crisis. Our make work pay policy to give an immediate pay rise so we have a genuine living wage across the country will also lift people out of poverty and help them meet the cost of their bills. If we can drive down bills in the short term, that is also really, really important. That's partly, of course, supported by the windfall tax. But what we want to protect Scotland from and the UK from is the volatility of international markets, which is why this plan, yes, brings down people's bills, yes, creates more jobs, but it also delivers greater energy security so we aren't more reliant on despotic regimes like Russia for our energy supply. This is a short-term fix, but also a long-term plan to deliver for the British people.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments from your rivals and the Conservatives in the SNP, for example, who've cast doubt on your great British energy scheme. They've cast doubt on the funding of it. They've cast doubt on the effectiveness of it and suggesting that the idea that it's going to create jobs is just not so.
Well, our opponents will do what they do in elections. All I would remind, in particular the SNP, is that they themselves made a promise to have a publicly owned energy company in Scotland many years back and then failed to deliver. We will make true to that promise and deliver for people here in Scotland. And to the Conservatives, I don't think they have a leg to stand on, to be frank. This is a Conservative party that destroyed our economy, that has seen people's bills skyrocket. The average mortgage is £2,000 higher a year in Scotland because of the actions of this Conservative government. So the idea we will take any economic lessons from an economically illiterate party like the Conservatives is for the birds.
Looking at the comments from the SNP leader, John Swinney, he has said that any incoming Labour government, were that to come to pass, you would hold an emergency budget immediately after the general election to bolster NHS funds. Is that something that would be offered in Scotland?
Well, we've already said that we would close the non-dom tax loopholes in order to put more money into our National Health Service. That has the potential of creating 160,000 more NHS appointments here in Scotland if the SNP government choose to spend the money in that way. We, of course, would urge them to do that. But I think we have to be really, really careful. We have to provide economic stability, and any incoming Labour government using the language of emergency may not be giving the perfect description of that stability. And I have perfect faith in Rachel Reeves to deliver that economic stability as our Chancellor, and I have every confidence that the decisions she takes will stabilise our economy, give confidence to business, but also help drive up productivity and wages for people across the country.
And Sarwar, I'd like to ask you about Diane Abbott, who, as you know, is seeking to stand as a Labour MP, having been reinstated into the party. She's saying she's been prohibited from doing so. Do you think, as leader of the Scottish Labour Party, that she should be allowed to stand?
Well, I think it's important to clarify that the candidates in England are the decision of the NEC. Of course, candidates in Scotland is overseen by the SEC. And I don't know what decision will be taken. I hope a decision is taken very soon. But what I do know is that Diane Abbott is a trailblazer in our political party and movement. She made history by being the first ever black woman elected to Parliament. She has been a great servant to our party, our country and to her community. That's what I know of Diane Abbott, someone who has got a proud history in the Labour Party.
I'm asking you what you think.
It's, as I say, decisions for selection of candidates in England is a matter for the NEC.
I'm not suggesting for a second this is your decision to make.
And I'm very clear about the record of Diane Abbott.
I'm asking for your opinion in the same way that Labour's Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner, has cast her opinion. She has said she doesn't see any reason why Diane Abbott can't stand as a Labour MP. Can you offer us your thoughts?
Well, I would agree with Angela that Diane Abbott is someone who is a historic figure in our party, a trailblazer, and someone who has a record of service for our party and our communities.
Forgive me, you said you agree.
I said I agree with
Angela Rayner, who has said she doesn't see any reason why Diane Abbott can't stand as Labour MP. Do you agree with that part of what she said?
Look, I agree with Angela, and I would also add that the comments that, or the article that Diane Abbott wrote, which were not acceptable, which led to a disciplinary investigation, an investigation which now has concluded and she's had the whip restored, something she apologised for. That's one part. So we've had the disciplinary process. She's had the whip restored. It's now for the NEC to do the endorsements of candidates, and I hope people will recognise that Diane Abbott is a trailblazer, someone with a strong history in the Labour Party. But again, ultimately, that's a decision for the NEC around candidates in England, just like it's a decision for the SEC around candidates in Scotland.
Help me with one thing here, please, with the yes or no. My question was that phrase from Angela Rayner, I don't see any reason why Diane Abbott can't stand as a Labour MP. Do you concur with that, yes or no?
I've already said I agree with Angela.
Okay, thank you.
And I made clear about the disciplinary process, which is now concluded and she's had the whip restored.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That is Anna Sarwar, who's leader of the Scottish Labour Party.